Wendell Berry has said that the world cannot be discovered by a journey of miles, no matter how long, but only by a spiritual journey, a journey of 1 inch, very arduous and humbling and joyful, by which we arrive at the ground at our own feet and learn to be at home. Let us take a spiritual journey together this year, a pilgrimage of learning to be at home. Together we will leave the safety and comfort of the familiar and test our mettle in an arduous and humbling and joyful journey. It will be difficult at times, but we'll face the unfamiliar together. There will be times of grieving to release what we've lost, and times of celebration to renew our resolve. Through it all, we will learn together to widen our horizons, deepen our hearts, and release our limitations so that we might know each other and ourselves anew. Oración para los viajeros. Esta es una oración por la misericordia, para que andes con pie firme y visión clara, por el pan para tu cuerpo y tu espíritu, por el agua, para que llegues seguro y para todos aquellos que encuentres en el camino. Remember when we began this pilgrimage together? Like all pilgrims, we started the journey excited to see where the path would lead. Buoyed by the expectancy of finding something priceless along the way, we barely noticed the difficulties at first. But like all pilgrimages, this one has inevitably become strenuous. Some days we wish we were already at the end. On days when the path is rocky, winding, and steep, we wish we'd never started. Midway through our journey together, let's remember the words of Angela Herrera's Prayer for Travelers. This is a prayer for traveling mercies and sure-footedness, for clear vision, for bread for your body and spirit, for water, for your safe arrival, and for everyone you see along the way.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you. Good morning. And as we listen to this peace bowl, we affirm our collective hope for peace. Especially this morning, let us hold the people of Afghanistan. And the people of Tennessee, who are mourning the loss of those that died in the flooding and who are desperately searching for those who are missing. Let us hold them. And also with this bowl, we affirm that these lands that we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people, the Wipukepas, the Tolkepayas, the Cuevkepayas, and the Yavapai. This morning, we are looking back on this almost year and a half of online togetherness. This is one of the first videos that you saw in our online services, one that was found by Karen Hagberg. Let us listen to those amazing essential workers as they sing about rising again.
Good morning and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Prescott, Arizona. I am Bronwyn Butterfield, your worship associate today. We extend a warm welcome to all on this beautiful, sunny, blue sky day. Blessings of well-being to each and every one of you. We would love to socialize, so please join us for the breakout rooms after the service. If you are joining us for the first time, please check out our website for more information. PrescottUU.org. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. We are physically apart, but we are still in community. Our meetings and activities continue via the internet. Check the Weekly Peek, our website, the order of service, and Reverend Patty's videos for updates and announcements. This week's Zoom meetings are Together Wednesday Forum, Wednesday Afternoon Faith Development, and Friday Lunch with the Minister. Bev and Robert, our children's faith development program leaders, are on break in August, but they'll be back in September, eager to implement an exciting program. We begin our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. The End is the Beginning by Reverend Katie Gelfand. We call forth the life of our faith by igniting our chalice. This spark of new beginnings invites us into a sacred space to reflect where we have been and where we are going. Even knowing that this particular flame will intentionally end with our ritual extinguishing, we fear not its end. For we know with brave hearts that from every ending of our lives, we are sent forth to make a new beginning. We light this chalice, a symbol of our heritage, in gratitude for this beloved community.
Good morning, and thank you, Bronwyn. I come to you today after a few days of watching the parent birds feed their young in the nest outside our window, the third series of nesters. Soon they will be gone, ready in those few days, we hope, to face the world, finding their own food and learning to hide from predators, those hawks and owls that fly almost silently through the forest. Next year, I wonder if they will return to us. Will instinct bring one of them, hoping to be a parent to that nest? How will we know when this happens? Today, let us gather in that mystery that sometimes gives voice to our spirits to do something, to keep the nest ready, to sing the song in our heart, to make room for the stranger. Let us sing together with our Granite Peak singers, When the Spirit Says Do.
When the Spirit says do, you got to do. shout. You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you gotta shout. Oh no, you gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. 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 Spirit says do.
And now please join me in saying our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. At this time, I told you in the video yesterday that that Bruno was asking to come back, but I have really hard news this morning. Bruno overslept, and I knocked on the door where he likes to hide, and he just wouldn't come. So I will be talking with Bruno in a couple more weeks. Just a minute. There's something crawling up my leg. Oh my gosh. Hello, everybody. I was not sleeping. Bruno, you need to put on your mask. Just a minute. Let me put on his mask. I don't like mask. Bruno, you know we've talked about the masking, but it makes me look terrible. It flattens my whiskers. It makes me look like a goon. And you not wearing mask. This is not fair that I must wear mask when you not wearing mask. Bruno, remember last night we spent a lot of time, we were listening to this podcast. Yes, very, very boring podcast. It was a podcast that was so important. It was about what is happening now in the world, about how things are becoming more dangerous. Don't you remember? I hate this kind of podcast because then she makes me wear my mask again. Bruno, it's for your safety because we love you. It isn't about you looking beautiful. And you do have you can with us, I don't make you wear a mask. You see what we found out last night that none of us, we just hadn't thought about, was that because for the last year and a half, we have been masked, and Bruno's been very good at wearing his mask. And I think he showed you his mask before, but because we have been sheltering from all of these germs, we are more vulnerable than we've ever been. And Bruno, you know how much you hate to have the flu. You know how much you hate to have the flu. Okay. Well, Bruno and I will prepare more for next time. But Bruno, how do you feel? Are you feeling a little better about wearing your mask when you are with people in public so that you can stay safe and other people can stay safe too? All right, I can agree. I think it's good idea for all of you to be wearing your masks in public now. Thank you. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you. I know that was hard for you and you just got up. Okay, thanks so much. And now let us listen to the sound of our peace bowl. We are moving into a different time of our service, and so I invite you into taking a deep breath with me. Let us put our feet on the ground and feel that earth beneath our feet, that earth that has held us for so many years. And if we consider what is under our feet as we go deeper and deeper down into that earth, all those layers of history, all those ever-changing layers, until we come to that fiery core. And now let us consider the sky above us, the sky that is so beautiful, whether it is empty of clouds in that brilliant blue, or filled with those clouds that make so many shapes. And we give thanks for that rain that we experienced this week, even though it moved our concert indoors. Let us think of all that is flying through the air in that space above us, the ravens and hawks and the tiny birds that are searching for food to bring back to the nest. As we breathe together, let us remember how each of us brings our joys and sorrows to our community, to this time together. We have a great joy today as we held Karen Denny as she was preparing for surgery. She is now on the other side of her surgery and she is healing well. And her doctors are saying that the surgery went well. So let us continue to hold her as she heals. We hold also Tim Schirkenbach, who had a bike accident a while ago, a few weeks ago while I was gone, but he is healing well. We also hold Judy Davis, who is now back in her room and can receive visitors. The flood damage has been abated. We also hold Ed Rosage, Richard Moorer, who is fitting in really well in assisted living, Eunice Lovejoy, Janer Eldridge, Karen Anderson, Peter Eldridge, Bob and Marilyn Coulter, Jack Stanton, Ainsley O'Donnell and Hokulani, Karen and Merle Hagberg, and Pocahontas and Jean Gertler, who are still a part of us, even though they have moved to the other side of the nation. And let us also hold all of us who have felt isolated during this time. And now I invite you into a time of silence, after which I will offer a meditation and prayer. Let us also hold in the world, as I said in my opening words, the people of Afghanistan and the people who are dealing with so many fires in many parts of this country. One that is very close to where my brother is now, up in the Great Lakes. Let us hold all those who are, and the forest animals as well, all those who are escaping fires, and the people of Tennessee who are suffering from the ravages of flooding. So now let us enter 2 minutes of silence, during which I invite you to say the names of those who are on your hearts and minds. Please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, we give thanks for this community, and we ask that during the week that we will feel comfort in remembering this time of shared joys and sorrows. We ask for blessings on all those in our community and all those connected with our community, our neighbors. We ask to continue to open communication with the people living around us who are in need. We ask for eyes to see and ears to hear and hearts that will understand those needs. We ask for this world, for all those continuing to be infected and enter hospitals. Once again, we ask for blessings on all those workers, the people who are trying to heal these people who are coming in with COVID infections, and feeling the impossibility of this, the length of time that they have been working. Please bless them and bless this earth that is suffering in so many places of lack of water and fires, and we give thanks for the water that we have received. We say these things in your many names. Amen. And now please join Lena and Russ in singing Walking, Walking with You.
Walking with you, walking with you is my prayer.
This is the time in our service when we normally gather the offering. We embrace the feeling of connection and community when we gather each week. Your generosity supports this congregation and its programs. We also give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. During the month of August, our recipient is Empty Bowls. Please read about them in your order of service and the newsletter. To give during this distance time, please go to prescottuu.org. On the bottom left-hand side, click the word donate to contribute. The link is also available in the chat on this video. What is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be. Now, please enjoy this video about empty bowls.
This year is the 24th annual Empty Bowls event. It will be held in person on the Courthouse Square from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on September 12th. Last year's event had to go virtual because of COVID, with drive-by bowl pickup and many activities online. This year, we are taking the best of those virtual ideas and combining them with the in-person event to create a 2-week hybrid event. Follow the link in today's announcements to see all the details on the Empty Bowls website. This year's creative volunteers have also set up a wonderful display in the Prescott Library Viewery. Please visit the library to see it. You can also contact Norma Meyer to volunteer, and we hope you will give to Empty Bowls through this month's Seeds of Support.
Thank you. Thank you. That is such a wonderful event that we are known for in this community. Our reading today is one of the first poems that was written about the pandemic in March. Pandemic by Lynn Unger. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling, give up just for now on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out your hands, reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, as long as we all shall live. Written by Reverend Lynn Unger, a Unitarian Universalist, March 11th, 2020. In this community, we have been blessed that no one in our community died of COVID. And yet this week, in this country, on one day, 1,500 people died. It has been a long and winding road. Let us listen to that road. When I thought of this sermon title months ago, our plans were set. We would be opening our building in September, possibly middle September, after Empty Bowls, for face-to-face meetings, and we were ready. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I wonder if you remember, as I do, those early days of the pandemic when we heard about this strange virus racing through the world. We can be proud of the response of the leadership of this congregation. We opted for safety, and we were lucky that a wave of infection had not yet hit this corner of the world as we were deciding. By the time we responded, cautionary tales were already spreading in the news of a choir in Washington State, a choir that met on March 17th for a 2.5-hour choir practice attended by 61 persons, including a symptomatic index patient or a person with the symptoms of COVID. There were 32 confirmed cases of COVID-19 occurring after that, and 20 probable secondary cases. 3 patients were hospitalized, 2 died. For those people who love to sing, and I love to sing, it is easy to understand why they gathered, and their gathering showed the world that singing, which some of us live to do, had become dangerous, especially singing together. In our congregation at that time, our choir and music director were having to give up a dream that they had been working towards for months of a large interfaith performance of Songs of the Earth as part of the festivities of the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. We were going to be singing to crowds of people at First Congregational Church. Many plans were shifted creatively by members of our congregation. We together have learned that we can be flexible and that nothing we have planned is more important than the health and safety of our community and the greater community around us. That is an important lesson to keep with us for the road ahead. When we decided to put the health and safety of our community first, then we could be creative about new forms. I saw in Mary Lou the realization, a very sad realization, and then acceptance that we couldn't move ahead with that dream. And then I saw her embrace other forms of keeping our choir together. And now, a year and a half later, we are not only together and happy, we are growing. During that April, our house was buzzing with activity. I could hear Lou calling people, helping them get accustomed to Zoom. We proved together, our community proved that we can learn new ways of doing things. All of the staff members reached out to experts in other Unitarian Universalist congregations and experts around the world and learned how to do things differently. Our stewardship team did the same thing, and our auction team, and the results were better than ever. You impressed me, and I think we impressed ourselves in our ability to overcome fear of technology or dislike of Zoom itself for the sake of keeping in contact with community, and also for the common good. In this pandemic, we also saw heroes emerge who were willing to risk their lives as essential workers. We heard of bus drivers dying of COVID because they had to keep working. We saw the heroism of our health workers who confronted their inability to save people, and the people who had to be separated from their loved ones. Much of the world outside these hospitals became quiet. And as our eyes were opening to the magnitude of the pandemic, we were also hearing of something we knew about in this congregation, the pandemic of racism. On February 23rd, 2020, Ahmed Marquez Arbery, an unarmed 25-year-old Black man, was pursued and fatally shot while jogging near Brunswick in Glynn County, Georgia. Then Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old African-American woman, was fatally shot in her home in Louisville, Kentucky on March 13th, 2020. On Monday, May 25th, 2020, George Floyd, a 46-year-old African-American man, was murdered in Minneapolis, Minnesota. George Floyd's death, after all these deaths, amalgamated a movement that swept our nation and came to our doors. Each day of my pilgrimage in July, each day was a kind of small pilgrimage. I looked up the route and periodically looked at it to get an idea of how far I had gone. By the time I had walked 20 kilometers, my feet were done. And often there were 4 or more left to go, depending on whether I had gotten lost or not. One day I walked into a town ready to walk about 100 more steps to the place where I was going to stay. I had a little piece of paper in my pocket that had directions to the guest house, the names of the streets around it, which I looked for. And when I entered that town, I was certain that I saw the name of the town on a plaque. But for some reason, the directions that I had didn't help me. I asked a couple of people, and they pointed me in a direction. And all the while, my feet were telling me that they had had enough. And so I sat down on a bench. It's surprising how many steps you can take just meandering around a town, trying to find somewhere. I even sat there and called the guest house, but the number wouldn't go through. Finally, a fellow pilgrim walked by, and I asked him. He was from San Francisco, And he was coming in from another pilgrimage route. This town where I was going to stay was special because it was where two different routes converged. I showed him my directions to the guest house, and he revealed to me the truth. I wasn't in the right town. The town was still 4 kilometers down the road. I wanted to cry. I was so tired. I think that I actually had that kind of magical thinking that somehow I could make that the right town and that the guest house would somehow appear. It couldn't possibly be down the road. Everyone was wrong but me. But of course, I knew he was right. And I got up off the bench and we walked together slowly, talking about our little aches and pains. We walked along that road to the next place. As we walked, my feet very tender, I heard the story of his life and how much he loved the French language and how he and his friends had been living during the pandemic. He was a physical therapist. And he ended up giving me a strap that I could fasten under my knee. I never did need that strap, but about 100 kilometers later, I met somebody who did need it. And that strap made all the difference in his journey. Together, we finally reached the town. We had a nice dinner, and I had a good sleep. I think that some of us right now are wishing, like I did, that we could make these numbers go away, that we could make these variants go away and make the world safer and free of the Delta variant and the Epsilon variant. We wish that this was the last stop on our pandemic pilgrimage. I can only tell you that I wish that it was too. I wish so much that I could tell you differently. I wish that I could tell you too that racism was a thing of the past. I wish that George Floyd's death and the prosecution of his killer had made the world safe for people of color. I wish that we were done with all of the things we have been doing during this time. I can tell you that good work is being done and that we as a congregation are going to be involved in good work, that we are involved in good work. There is a Zoom meeting around policing here in Prescott that will be held, I believe, on August 28th. You will be getting information as to how to join that meeting. We also want to think that the food pantry could become obsolete, but it is my sense that we are just beginning to connect through trust with communities that need what we have to offer. On Friday at 10 o'clock, when I went to our building, a woman who uses the food pantry for her family of 6, including a child with disabilities. She was studying with a new volunteer, Catherine Euler. Catherine was helping her in Spanish learn how to pass her driver's test in English. At about 11, sitting in the pantry with Patrick and Ardella Moran, Artie came in from the vets across the street. He said that he didn't need anything, but he wanted to help in the garden. So Bev took him over to the garden for weeding. Ezra came later. He's been helping us weed whack the front garden of our main building. And if we could find a replacement, which he's looking for the strings of the weed whacker that Suze so generously gave us, he will come back on Tuesday to do much more. These are signs that make me happy, that make me feel that we are returning to a fuller circle, which is the image that our worship team had of the coming year. The bad news is that the end of the pandemic doesn't seem to be here as we had hoped. The good news is that if we use what we've been learning during this time, we will be okay. We will be happy, and our community will continue to flourish. We still have lots of stories to share with each other that will lift us as we walk along this stretch of road we wish were not ahead of us. If you are experiencing that pandemic of loneliness and want to gather in Davis Hall and watch Zoom with other people, reach out to me and you will be on the list for the gathering that will begin 2 weeks from today. This is a change we will be making, but the number of people who can watch together that Zoom will be limited. So reach out to me if you want your name on the list. There are people, around 12 or 14 people, who have not been able to be a part of our Zoom meetings, who do not have access to the internet. And they keep calling me and saying, Reverend Patty, when are we going to be able to be with people again? And so we will have this Zoom service with them at the center. And if you come to the building on Tuesday through Friday from 10 to 12, you can sit with pantry volunteers with your mask, as Bruno would remind you. You could even bring them rewards like brownies and coffee. I suggest that you really try to connect with smaller groups. And I think that we need to turn any time that we gather together into a party. After the Sunday service, Suze Rezatar asked if anyone was interested in going to the Cinco de Mayo party at her house that had been an auction item. At first, I responded with that litany that sometimes comes out of my mouth. I've been up since 4 a.m. I'm exhausted. I couldn't possibly go to a party. I'm too busy, which I knew later was not a good reason at all. And then I just thought, why not? And I'm so glad that I went. That was some of the best medicine I have found in the past months, sitting with many people from our community, masked and separated, but talking wildly about the things that have happened during this time. Perhaps the biggest learning of this time is that we humans need each other. We are all connected. And as in Bill Withers' song, there comes a time for all of us when we must lean on one another for these next miles that we hoped we would not have to navigate. We will need each other. And we may as well make all this leaning fun. I think that it is possible that we could look back on these years as some of our best. That is my hope. Amen. And may it be so. And let us sing with Bill Withers, Lean on Me. Together we give thanks for all the shoulders we have been able to lean on, now more figuratively than literally, for the give and take, for the love and support, not only of ourselves, but of the common good. Together, we have been able to imagine how to do things differently. May that imagination continue with us. May we listen for the Spirit to tell us to do and dance and sing and wear our masks and protect those who are vulnerable. May we embrace this moment that we have been given here on this earth. Autumn in the air, can you feel it? the wind moving in the high branches of the trees, the song of birds, the voices of friends and strangers giving us courage and hope and healing our hearts. Amen, and may it be so. And now we return to another image of those first months of the pandemic, of empty train stations. Let us keep imagining together a new world. And now, before we extinguish our chalice, I want to let you know, I forgot to put this in our announcements, but after this service, I believe I put it in my weekly Peak article. The leadership of Granite Peak will be available to answer questions and talk about what we are planning for the road ahead in response to these new higher numbers. Elaine Hayes and Bobby Bollinger and myself will be able to answer questions after we extinguish the chalice. And now, please join me in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. If you want to join in that conversation, you just stay in the main room. And if you are waiting for a breakout room to talk with people, then join the breakout room that you will be invited to join.